Hey guys, Brad here with Custom Offsets. Got another episode of Lifts and Levels for you. This is a 6-inch rough country for 2009 to 13 Ford F-150. All right, so we're gonna jump into the kit here and explain the components. This is a 6-inch kit, like I mentioned. So obviously we got our brand new knuckles here that are designed by Rough Country, and then we also got front skid plate as well, because the front diff is lower down, which you need, which is going to be accomplished by these front diff drop brackets here. What that does is help bring the CV axle angles down to a more factory life position with that diff drop. Get the new skid plate to protect the front diff once it's lowered down. And we got our big new lower control arm drop cross members here that are going to drop the lower control arms down. And then these pieces here as well, this is for the sway bar drops, and that actually all ties in to the diff drops as well. Got the N3 shocks for the rear. There's no struts up front, although Rough Country does offer a strut replacement up front. This one is just going to use the standard strut spacers up front. This is going to be where all your lift comes from. Got a front drive shaft spacer here, and then some brake line relocation brackets as well. And really that's pretty much all the components of this kit. There's some hardware and stuff like that, but otherwise not too much stuff going on here. And we're gonna go ahead and get installed now. So we're gonna run through the components as they're installed on the truck here. We obviously got our new Rough Country knuckles here. These are gonna be crucial for maintaining ball joint angle and those type of things, as well as also provide some of the lift that goes into these kits. The other main components that are going to be the lower control arm drop cross members that are installed here. And as you can see, these are the sway bar drops, but they also act as a brace too. They tie into the factory frame and the new cross member here as well. Our front differential drops. These are going to be these brackets here, and then you can also see that they do have a brace as well, which ties into these cross members. So anytime when you see things being braced like that or tied into other components, that's a good sign that they're actually taking the time to think about things like that and making sure that nothing's going to be flexing or moving around too much with these new lift kits. Brake line relocation bracket, as you can see here, you pretty much take the factory brake line and it's moved down here via the help of this bracket. We also got our front drive line spacer. So this is just a spacer for the front drive shaft, which is needed on these Ford Resepa joints that they use. And then there's also going to be a skid plate, which appears to not have made it onto the truck yet. For some reason that it's sitting over there on the bench. But there should be a skid plate that ties in here between the front and rear lower control arm cross members, and it's going to give a little protection to the front diff as it was lowered down. The knuckles also raise your tie rods up to correct tie rod angle. That's pretty much going to be it for the front. Oh, forgot to mention. So you'll notice that it uses factory struts here. The lift also comes from this spacer atop of the strut assembly here. A lot of people get confused when they get these spacers. The spacer is not going to equate to the actual lift height of the vehicle, because you also have to remember that the lower control arm is getting dropped down. Therefore, the strut is going to be lowered down, and then you have to make up for that with the strut spacer as well. Moving on to the back, as you'd expect, it's just going to be the simple blocks and then new shocks for the rear. These kits, like most other Rough Country kits, use their anti-wrap blocks here. As you can see, it's a much longer block with extra clamps on it to basically dissipate the load across the leaf spring more to prevent axle wrap. And then we got the N3 shocks. N3 shocks are the Rough Country's newer series of shocks, which is an improvement over the old N2 series shocks. And we got the new U-bolts, nuts, and then also moving up some brake lines back here as well. You can see with this bracket up here. And then the last pretty much component to the rear of the lift kit is going to be for the parking brake cables. Here's another relocation bracket as well, which moves the parking brake cable, so you still retain the use of your parking brake. And that's going to be it for a 6-inch Rough Country kit for F-150. I forget the year. 09 to 13. I believe that's the range that this particular kit fits. F-150s are pretty all similar suspension wise from 09 really up until current. There's a couple little changes, so there are some splits in the years, but this one's for 09 to 13, 6-inch rough country. Peace.